Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial. Today's tutorial I'm going to talk about the exception handling in a layered architecture. We know what exception is, that whenever something unnatural happens to the application, then the application may get crashed. So we need to take some appropriate action so that the application can revive from the disaster. So that is where the thing exception handling comes in. Now in a layered architecture, the exception handling is something different. That means that the exceptions in different layers should not be concerned about the other exceptions or other layers exceptions. So now at the lowest level or the lowest layer, we see that we have these DAO layer. That means the data access object layer. And in this DAO layer, you can see that this is the method isValidUser is used for validating a user against the user ID and password in database. And we have ran some SQL over here within the try-catch block. Okay. And you can see that there is something we are calling that the DO exception. So it is throwing a DO exception. And within here, you can see that the catch is SQL exception. So that means whenever we are creating a connection, we are writing some prepared statement or SQL statement. In that case, we have to catch it. And the catch is, we have to catch the SQL exception. And after catching it, what we are doing is we are throwing a DO exception. And we are saying that there is a connection problem. Now, you can see that within the final block, we have closed our connection. So this is always a good idea to close the connection and should always be associated with the finally block. And you can see that here again we have thrown a new DO exception if for some reason we cannot connect or we cannot close the connection. Now if I go over here, the DAO exception, you can see that within the package. So if I run showing in Project Explorer, and here I have two exceptions. One is the DO exception and other one is the business exception. And these are the checked exceptions because they are extending to the exception class, and this is just the constructor. Okay, and the same thing applies to the business exception. And again here that we have made it a checked exception and the constructor, and we are going to print what the message or what the error is. So these are fairly very simple kind of exception that I have created over here. But the point here is that within the DO exception, we are throwing the within the DO layer, we are throwing the DAO exception. And this DO layer, if you can remember that this is coming, this method is defined in an interface, which is the user DAO. All right, user DAO. Here you can see that isValidUser. Now who is calling it? It's being called by the service layer. And here is my service layer. Okay, and you can see that within the service layer, I have used what? Business exception. And the implementation is over here. So now you can see that we are invoking this interface, okay, or this implementation class, and then we are catching it because this is a checked exception, and we threw what? We threw a DAO exception. So whoever the caller is, in this case the caller is this method, so this method has to catch it. So this is what we have caught, DAO exception. And then we are throwing a new business exception, and we are saying that couldn't find user, and this new business exception is being caught by the controller. So if we go over here, and you can see that this is the method, or this is the block where we are saying that try catch block. Okay, let me highlight it. Okay, so here you can see that we have the try catch block, and in the catch we have done what? We have put the business exception to catch. Okay, and we are logging the exception to the console over here, that the whatever the message is coming from the business layer or the data layer. So we are doing what? We are catching it, or we are catching the exception over here through the logger. Okay, so the best practice is to put log in every cases. So this logger can be coming over here as well. Okay, catch, and then over here we can put the logger dot whatever the severity is, and then we put it like that. So that means that the exception handling should be layered as well. And if I get it over here, you can see now that this layer, okay, this layer is having a DAO exception. This one is a business exception, and this controller is handling all the exception by a try catch block. Okay, and logging it. Okay, so the same thing, we have to put it over here. We have to also log your exception, and here we have to put also log your exception. Okay, so that means that our layered architecture is also having a layered exception handling procedure. Okay, and also we have to be careful about logging it, that without the logger we cannot actually know that what is happening. And in a production environment, we are going to log into some kind of text file or XML file, so that the person who is going to debug or troubleshoot can look into the logger. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.